It's Tuesday. And if you know it's Tuesday, it's the Chris Michael Show. Yes, I have trimmed the facial hair. I had Polish food over the weekend. And so what happens when you do that? You've got a lot of kielbasa, potato pancakes, smoked fish, and lava cake. Can't forget about lava cake, pierogi, the whole 9 yards when you've got Polish food over the weekend. And what happens when you've got facial hair and Polish food and they mix? The odors remain in the hair follicles, and I couldn't stand it. I am so tired of kielbasa at this point because I went to a couple of Polish delis and grocery stores. And when you go there, you can find things that you would not normally find in a regular grocery store. So there is this thing. I don't know. It's called gypsy bacon. Now, most of you know out there at this point that I'm not really a meat eater. I'd prefer to just eat vegetables and fruits. However, gypsy bacon, smoked bacon, and on top of it are crusted herbs with red pepper flakes. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, this is so good. We bought a whole pound of this stuff, and it was so cheap compared to a regular grocery store. I felt like I was robbing the place, so I couldn't get away from it. And then, I just countless different types of kielbasas that I bought, and it filled the fridge, absolutely filled the fridge. So I was a bit of a glutton. I went off my usual reservation when I have non-fruit, non-vegetable diets. So I am feeling a bit randied this evening. So do excuse me. It's all of the kielbasa and the pierogies. So, when I start out on the show, I typically do something a little bit more tongue-in-cheek rather than get right into the meat and taters. So we'll be going over to Miss Kim Kardashian. Miss Kim Kardashian has decided to come out with a new line of underwear. Yes, that's right. Gird your loins, everybody. If you are just ordinary, wearing a typical boxer short, maybe you are wearing a boxer brief. If you are a female, you enjoy thongs or boy shorts. Well, that doldrum is no longer going to apply to you because Miss Kardashian is now mixing everything up. You can buy thongs with pre-applied pubic hair. Yes, everybody, if you dare to manscape or if you dare to landscape, if you are of the feminine persuasion and you, for some reason, feel like you need a mound or a patch in your pants, you can buy Kim Kardashian's thongs and therefore have a more hirsute lifestyle just for a day because you can take these off and just go about the rest of your life knowing full well that you did not have to wax or shave or even get laser hair removal surgery. So thank you, Kim Kardashian, for contributing to society yet again. I truly appreciate the efforts, and I cannot wait to see this new product of Kim Kardashian's in person. So there you go, everybody. I mean, look at this. You can get this flaming red. I mean, this is not even an Irish ginger red. I mean, this is something completely different. So my goodness, what a time to be alive. Doesn't everybody enjoy this kind of material? It's fantastic. You can't talk about news and gloom and doom all the time. You have to mix it up every now and then because it just becomes morose. It becomes macabre. And, we need to rely on new technologies to sometimes lift us out of the dumps that sometimes we see ourselves in. ChatGPT is going to be the company that does this for us. ChatGPT is now saying, I'm going to treat you like an adult. Yes, Mr. Altman is for some reason now saying that everybody out there above the age of 18 is going to be the master of their fates when using ChatGPT. So he is saying that, guess what? You are now allowed to create pornographic material on ChatGPT starting in December. And CEO Sam Altman says, as part of treating adults like adults, which includes stuff like erotica and more customizable chatbot personalities. OpenAI made the bot pretty strict before to protect people with mental health struggles, but now says it has the tools to ease those limits safely, and you will be able to create all kinds of disgusting imagery just for your own fruits of your labors. This, according to Reuters. I hate saying that name, but Mr. Nawfall, also another name that I hate to say, especially since he takes $7,000 a post. They are reporting this kind of thing. So this just goes to validate what I've always said, particularly when it comes to creating this essentially depopulation agenda, right? Think about this. How many different ways does society have that you have free access to make sure that you do not reproduce, right? You've got abortions. You've got plan B. There's actually a plan C. I didn't know about this, but there is a plan C. You've got birth control. You also have what? You've got a massive amount of propaganda, especially under Joseph Biden, to promote the LGBTQ crowd, right? By nature, if you're any one of those letters, you cannot reproduce. I mean, on some level you can if you do IVF or you adopt or you have a surrogate, but normally two locks don't go anywhere, and if you're into sword fighting, it's not going to amount to much. You can shake those two dimes together all day long. You ain't going to come up with a quarter. So they're trying to make sure that certain sections of the population do not reproduce, and this is just one more of those efforts. How many studies have we read after COVID that, yes, I am now a recluse. I enjoy staying in the confines of my parents' basement, and I'm not going to move out until I'm at least 45 years old, if before they die, and then I can just inherit the house altogether and never leave my childhood home. There's a certain amount of mental, I was going to say retardation, maybe that's the correct word, that occurred during COVID, and we're still seeing the after effects of it. And this is just one more of those ways. Think about it. The younger generations don't know what it's like to go to a bar and put your face into the blender of female rejection or male rejection. You're drunk, you've got liquid courage, and you go up to the hottest girl in the bar, and you think you're going to win her over by finger gunning your way into the conversation she's been having with 8 other people she's come with. You don't know what that's like anymore. How many times have you read those studies or those instances on social media where women are complaining that no guy has come up to them anymore, and we don't know what to do? Everything is across Tinder, and I don't know, whatever the other ones are out there, right? Well, this just goes to reinforce this kind of reclusive behavior. Think about this. You can now go to ChatGPT. You can create your own customizable porn bot, and it will interact with you however you want it to interact with you. If you're a cuckold, it will talk down to you. If you are into domination, it will also do that. It will be the more submissive personality. If you're into, I don't know, married life, you can have arguments and then you can have makeup sex. This is the kind of behavior that we don't need in mankind anymore. We need people to interact with one another. We need to get off of social media, and I am aware that I am broadcasting across social media, and we need people to meet face to face. We don't need ChatGPT enabling us to get our rocks off without any kind of real physical human interaction. And we need people to understand that they are human beings as well, and they also need to interact on a real plane of existence. I mean, this is where I really, truly dread where mankind is going. It's just kind of silly at this point, too. Okay, moving right along. Speaking of this idea of not having the ability to reproduce, right? I've suggested this many times before. It's the notion that the state and the governments want to take over your ability to reproduce, right? What do I mean by that? If you've got a good enough social credit score, then the state will allow you to have a child. And if you raise that child within a certain period of time, your social credit score goes up. And then the state qualifies you to have a second child. My goodness, what a time to be alive. Now, I also contend that a social credit score, which the state truly wants to instill upon you, tied to a digital ID, tied to a digital banking currency, a central banking digital currency, or a stable coin. Yes, that's the new phrase these days. Then you will earn credits based upon your actions. And I don't mean just working. If you visit old mom and dad on Thanksgiving and Christmas, well, you get a certain amount of credits. But if you randomly visit them over the course of the year, you earn even more credits because you're doing your part for the family unit. And then those credits can be turned into dollars or some kind of currency, and then you can use it to do whatever you like. Now, they also want to create this idea of currencies on the micro scale, not the macro scale. So you'll have a New York dollar, a California dollar, a Bank of America dollar, a Goldman Sachs dollar. You'll have a New Jersey dollar. You'll have a Bronx dollar. Do you understand? And it all has their own very own exchange rates, not to sound redundant. That's the ultimate goal here. All right. Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock. We all know him. Larry Fink is the one that essentially buys up everything, instills DEI across the companies that he has a vested interest in, buys up I don't know if it's him. Buys up things like Spotify. I think that's him. And the problem with Mr. Fink is that he says that we are just beginning to see tokenization. He was quoted as saying, "We believe we're just at beginning of tokenization of all assets." What does he mean by this? Tokenization of all assets. In other words, every single thing that you do, every single thing that you see or interact with, every kind of physical, corporeal item, whether it's your phone, a rock, a tree, a blade of grass, it will be tokenized and given a value. They literally want to quantify everything in existence. So when I say that they want to digitize every single transaction, every single action that you perform, tie it to your digital currency, to issue digital credits for you to maintain your existence, I'm not lying. And Larry Fink is all about it. He can't wait to do it. This is how disturbed of a society we actually are in right now. But I want to go back to what I said before about how to create life, especially since we are interacting with a digitalization of society as a whole. MIT is now doing what? And this comes from the Epic Times. Aaron Kheriaty. Good luck pronouncing that. I don't know. If this is the first time you're tuning in, you know that old Chris Michaels is not very good with last names, nor is he very good with pronouncing anything from the chemical or biological fields. It's far too polysyllabic for me to roll those words and vowels and consonants out of this old mouth. MIT Technological Review has decided to post something. Ethically sourced spare human bodies could revolutionize medicine. Oh my goodness. Really? Is this the path we want to go down? I hope not. They're calling them bodyoids. Yes, bodyoids. You think some of the smartest people in mankind's history could come up with a better name than bodyoids. Maybe they should consult the English department and come up with something a little bit better. But this is their study. They say hypothetical modified human bodies created from stem cells. Oh, so now we're admitting that stem cells can literally create anything, including clones. Bodies that have been genetically altered so that they lack brains and presumably are without consciousness. Oh, they don't even know. They could be creating beings. They also say that they do not yet have the technical capability to create such beings. I would assume behind closed doors they're more than capable of doing it. But recent advances in stem cells, gene editing, and artificial uteruses provide a pathway to producing living human bodies without the neural components that allow us to think, be aware, or feel pain. That doesn't, by the way, exclude the fact that these bodyoids would not have pain receptors. So there is some level of pain that these fleshy contorts would actually feel. They're also saying that they admit that they find the prospect of bodyoids disturbing, but they argue that a potentially unlimited source of spare human bodies will be immensely useful and should be pursued. Oh, yes, this is exactly it. This is fantastic. I can't wait until this happens. And they say, oh, we can conduct experiments on them in order to test drugs and other medical interventions. The authors also suggest that it would be more ethical to do drug testing on humans who cannot feel pain because they lack nervous systems than on animals that can feel pain. And there are other potential benefits as well. So here's the main gist of why I bring this up. Not only is this disgusting, and dare I say, does it go against the divinity of mankind and God itself, or himself, or herself, whatever it is that you believe. But this goes into the column that I brought up before, that if you create these bodyoids, and the state controls who can and cannot give birth, and also if you have a good enough social credit score, it would allow you to access certain genes. So if you've got a very good social credit score, you get all of your medical treatments that you're deemed to qualify for. If you say the nice things, you go along with the narrative all the time, then you've got a very, very good credit score, and you will be able to have, I don't know, blonde hair and blue-eyed children. If you want twins, go for it, because we know that you are a good egg in this society. And furthermore, they won't actually allow you to have that child. No, 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 no. The state would more than likely create the child through CRISPR technology, through these bodyoids, allowing the child to come to gestation and ultimately be born. There's another disturbing fact behind all of this as well. And I have to go back to one of the individuals that I reference often. It was in a test study back during the COVID era. And their reaction to the injection was that they can no longer feel God. Really? You can no longer feel God? I find this a significant statement after an injection like that. Because most people claim to be atheists. So by default, we have to assume that this person is atheist in the United States. And for some reason, they still felt some kind of connection subconsciously at the very least, and they can no longer feel a connection to the universe and divinity. That's a pretty big statement. But it also goes down a different direction. We've seen this plenty of times in conspiratorial talks and all the rest, where we've heard this idea. Now, this goes back to the 90s, right? Or maybe even before that. That there is some race of beings, and they want to inhabit human bodies for whatever reason. I mean, you can go down the occult area where you've got fallen angels, and fallen angels, they are no longer corporeal, but it doesn't mean they are not tied to the earth. So they no longer have a physical body, but they're still lurking about. And then that's when you get all kinds of wonderful things like summons, or not a summons. They haven't been arrested or given a ticket. Summonings, or possessions and all the rest, right? So here's the problem. Are they trying to create these bodyoids for some other kind of intelligence? I wouldn't be surprised if they were. Go back to Zulu legend. Look into Credo Mutwa. Have one of his books. At some point during the creation of evil, this is a legend, goes back thousands and thousands of years, probably even before language. The progenitor of evil created a race of fleshy beings. If you're Jewish, you would know it as a golem. And these fleshy beings didn't have a soul, except one. The most savage of these fleshy beings did have a soul. And these beings were created to wait on mankind hand over foot. They were not created to disobey. They were created as a slave species. And then at a certain point, they started to get some kind of consciousness, some kind of awareness. And then ultimately, after a big fight with heaven and all the rest, this most savage of the fleshy beings, they are the masculine progenitor of mankind itself. So what am I saying with all of this? Something doesn't seem right with these bodyoids. I'm saying that this is a story as old as time. If you've got Zulus talking about fleshy beings like this, slave species, slave humanoids, it's thousands of years old. Probably a story that originates before the flood. And the reason why I say that is because you could look at Edgar Cayce and look at some of his Atlantis channelings. You find out the same thing, that when Atlantis was submerging beneath the waves, the Atlanteans had a slave species, a golem-like species, a fleshy robot-like species. They went into Egypt, and the Egyptians were saying, what on earth? What is this macabre BS? We don't need any of this. And that's according to channelings, if you believe all of that. So here we are, thousands of years later, dealing with bodyoids. So listen, we've got to start looking into what it is that allows this kind of behavior, because I can tell you that the government and the people in the government, they don't care, right? They see this as some kind of instance where we're competing with some country or other whatever, right? Other group, other agency. And we need this kind of technology to remain competitive. Yeah, absolutely not. No, let's take the high road here and not create fleshy robots and bodyoids from MIT. I mean, it's disgusting. I mean, where's the divinity in all of this? All right, so escalating in the Ukraine. This is where I finally get to what I get to. All right. I wanted something different from Donald Trump, and I'm not getting it. As far as I'm concerned, this first year under Donald Trump 2.0 has been more like Biden 2.0. Think about all the escalation we see in Eastern Europe, Russia. Think about the nonsense, absolute nonsense that we've seen in Gaza and what this Trump administration is allowing Israel to do. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Coke-snorting, C-list comedian that likes to play instruments with his penis, Zelensky, over in the Ukraine, who leads neo-Nazis. He's been trying to convince Donald Trump, and probably NATO, to give them Tomahawk missiles. My goodness, this is fantastic news. Why? Because now the Ukrainians can strike deep into Russia. They've got a 1,500-mile range, according to public figures. There's multiple types of Tomahawks, by the way. The Navy has some. Army has some. I think the Navy has two different types. One launched from a destroyer or a cruiser. One launched from a submarine. I think the Air Force has a type of Tomahawk. So, I mean, you can take your pick, right? You've got many different types of Tomahawks. Problem is this. So Tomahawks are also technically able to carry nuclear weapons. Now, here's where I fear this is going. Donald Trump seems to play this kind of game all the time. He is about to enter into some kind of negotiation, either with Russia or Iran. And what does he do? He allows some kind of attack on the perceived enemy at the negotiation table a day before the negotiations are about to begin, or in the case of Iran, about 3 or 4 days before the negotiations were about to begin. He views this, or at least the Trump administration views this, as some kind of way to gain leverage during a negotiation process. No, this is not going to work with Russia. Didn't work a couple of months ago. It's not going to work again. Why is this so dangerous? Because if the Ukrainians launch a Tomahawk missile, there's no way for Russia to know whether or not the Tomahawk missile is nuclear tipped. And if you look into Ripple technology and Operation Dominic from 1963, you find out that the United States essentially created clean nuclear munitions that wiped out 99.9% of the nuclear fallout. So that means that we could have a nuclear exchange and still inhabit the land once we're finished. And you mean to tell me that the nuclear arsenal and the nuclear technology just stopped being researched? Especially during Trump 1.0, when he said we need to update the nuclear arsenal. What did he do about that? What kind of updating are we talking about, Donald? Being that there is no way for Russia to know whether or not there is a nuclear-tipped Tomahawk missile heading towards Moscow, then the nuclear doctrine for Russia comes into play. And if it comes into play, Russia sees this as an existential threat, even more so than what's going on in the Ukraine. And if Russia sees it as an existential threat, according to their own nuclear doctrine, that means they're going to launch all kinds of nuclear weapons all across the world. The United States, Germany, Italy, France, England. Do we really want to play this game? Factor in that the only way that Tomahawk missiles are going to be used from the Ukrainian side is if the West allows its contractors in there, so basically military men, under the guise of a private security firm, interacting with, U.S. military satellites, using U.S. targeting technology. Basically, the only thing the Ukrainians are going to do in order to claim that this is a Ukrainian Tomahawk is push the red button for launching after the United States or England allows for everything to be set up to launch said Tomahawk. I'm not happy with this Trump administration for doing this. And Trump is supposed to say yay or nay by the end of this week. Medvedev, former president of Russia, echoed my concerns because I'm brilliant, or he pays attention to the Chris Michael show. I doubt the latter. He said that this could end badly for everyone, most of all for Trump himself. It's been said 100 times in a matter understandable even to the star-spangled man that it's impossible to distinguish a nuclear Tomahawk missile from a conventional one in flight. And he also was alluding to Russian strategic doctrine in a scenario where Russian leaders believed or suspected a nuclear payload had been launched at Russia. Its military would have the right to respond in kind with nukes. Why are we going down this road? On what planet, with what leadership do we see this as a positive in the negotiating column? There's no planet that this is good for. None. Yet here we are. We're loving it. We're MAGA. We're here. We're going to support this guy no matter what happens. Ugh. 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 If you've seen how Trump acts, because he is completely beholden to Miriam Adelson money. By the way, when Trump was in the Knesset saying, oh, yeah, Miss Adelson's got $60 billion. We love her. Trump said that, oh, yeah, I asked Miss Adelson if you love Israel or America more, and she didn't answer. And Trump said, well, that may mean that you love Israel more than America. Of course she does. Of course she does. The estate bankrolled your presidential campaign. You made a deal with them to support Israel in whatever it wants to do, whether it's creating the Greater Israel Project, whether it's to create ethnic cleansing, whether it's to create massacres of all kinds, as long as Ms. Adelson and her Israeli contacts keeps the Western media off of Donald Trump's back. There you go. I said it. Trump made a deal with Israel to make sure the Western media, ABC, CBS, all the rest, do not bother him anymore like they bothered him during the first Trump administration. So this is where you see the nonsense that we see, like, oh, I don't know, Mike Huckabee rocking out over in Israel by doing a cover of Sweet Home Alabama called Sweet Home, oh God, I can't pronounce this, Yerushalayim. In other words, Jerusalem. That's in Hebrew. And they make the whimsical lyrics. Torah scrolls keep on turning. Just 2 days, we are through. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to hear more of this. I mean, don't get me wrong. The guy's playing the bass. All right. I am a guitar player. I play 12-string guitar. I played violin for 9 years. The guy knows how to play bass. All right. Give him that. But I mean, come on. And then last week he says that, oh, yes, Israel and America were like a married couple. There's never going to be any daylight between us. And what's the point of getting a divorce? Doesn't matter. We might as well just stay together the whole time. Oh, God. And then I've also brought up in the past how they are intending on homogenizing the messaging when it comes to Israel, especially when we are approaching the midterms. You've got the enormous 10-cent chicken hawk chicken feces, Mark Levin. And this is from Village Crazy Lady. We've had Mel on. She's great. Go pay attention to her. She is saying, at least citing the video from Fox News with this utterly despicable matzah-sucking slob, Mark Levin, that he wants the United States to continue along its war on terror now that we've got some kind of peace deal in the Middle East. He wants a war on terror 2.0 because he wants to finally stamp out Islamic terrorism using American blood and American legitimacy. No, Mark. Go back to shoving a cheeseburger down your gullet. We all know that you're not kosher. You're a bloodthirsty a-hole that shouldn't even be in front of a microphone. Your time has come. Just leave us all alone. Retire. You've done enough. I know. You were in the Reagan administration. Effing great. That was 40 years ago. You are a sycophantic loser that shouldn't even have any kind of leverage anywhere. Yet here we are listening to you trying to engage in another unending war. That's how all of these wars work, by the way. They never want to see an ending. It's always just beyond the horizon. The barbarians must be stopped. Oh my gosh, if we just hit them hard over here, then we can finally have peace of mind. That's exactly the way that the Gaza situation is going. Because the last 20 hostages or POWs, because women I would consider hostages. These people that Hamas released could have been POWs, right? Have been released. And now Israel is saying, well, the whole peace process could be jeopardized because we do not have the remains of the dead hostages. Well, how are you going to find the remains of dead hostages when over 200,000 tons of munitions have been dropped onto Gaza? How are you going to do that? More than likely, any of these hostages that have been killed were probably due to Israeli fire. So, do you understand this peace process, this deal in Gaza is going to fail before it actually gets off the ground? And Donald Trump is even echoing this sentiment, saying, oh, the Hamas members, they are not abiding by the agreement because we demanded that the remains of the dead hostages be released, and they haven't done so. Phase 2 starts now. And if they don't do this immediately, then the Israelis with American support are going to have to possibly forcibly do this. What do you mean by this? It means that it's going to enable Israel, and with United States backing, to justify the next phase of the whole situation, and that is to invade Gaza even further, because Israel cats, along with Juggears Netanyahu, they were saying, well, like, we don't know how many tunnels Hamas has. And we need to go in there. We need to make sure they don't have any tunnels left. Only then can we have a peace of mind. The barbarians are just beyond the horizon. If you haven't stopped and destroyed all of these tunnels after 2 years and 200,000 tons of munitions, you ain't going to do it now. Do you see how this is always meant to go in perpetuity? It's never meant to end. I don't care what kind of peace deals you've got out there. I don't care about the nonsense that you hear where we finally did it. Do you know the signatories on this great deal that Donald Trump signed in Egypt? Turkey, Qatar, Egypt. There was no Israel signing upon this. Why not? Is Trump saying in this deal that the signatories are going to be the ones that enforce this deal? Or is he saying that Israel is not part of the deal and is still allowed to do whatever it wants to do in Gaza, including the West Bank, because the Knesset voted to take over the West Bank as well? More upping of the ante. Why I'm really upset about this is, one, I don't like ethnic cleansing. But two, we're starting to see what really happened to a lot of these hostages on both sides, right? The Israeli side, obviously, these people are probably malnourished. They're under an immense amount of mental strain. They've been in Hamas tunnels or Hamas hideouts, maybe even off the shore. I doubt off the shore, but maybe even off the shore, maybe even in another country for 2 years. So to say there isn't some kind of PTSD is foolhardy. But we're also now starting to see how the Israelis have treated the Palestinians. According to testimonies from Israeli doctors, amputations were frequently carried out at these camps. I can't pronounce it, I won't try. As a result of torture, prolonged shackling, untreated injuries, gunshot wounds, and systemic medical neglect, or systematic medical neglect. So let me paint the picture for you on how these people were treated. They were chained. They were more than likely beaten. And possibly their gunshot wounds left untreated. Gangrene was setting in. I'm fairly certain the Israelis were not giving any of these people the proper medical treatment that a prisoner should have under the Geneva Convention. And so when the gangrene set in, instead of trying to operate and push it back. They decided to just amputate people. This poor guy has amputated fingers, has an amputated leg, has an amputated foot. Is this the sign of America's greatest ally? Is this how they act? Is this the way America wants to be represented in the Middle East and throughout the world? This photo is heartbreaking. I thought Israel is supposed to be the glittering jewel of democracy in the Middle East, and yet here we are seeing this person treated worse than any animal. I, for one, as an American, am appalled because I know for a fact that if you go around the world, people view us as backing up these kinds of atrocities. I mean, this is Dr. Mengele type of behavior that we're witnessing here. And so this is where I'm going to leave it. We need to do better as Americans. It's the Chris Michaels Show. I'll be back every Tuesday. Thursday's interview night. I want you to stay tuned for that. Speaking with a guy, he does all kinds of interesting remote viewing techniques, and he has transported his remote viewers into the future, 2060. What are we going to find out? All right, that's it for me. I will see you next Tuesday.